Heidegger did, partly because he was not pleased, I suppose, with the metaphysical consequences of the scientific worldview, and also perhaps because he wasn't very happy about our ability to account for consciousness, he decided to see what would happen if he played a different kind of game. And you can do that in an intellectual discussion. You know, you can say, well, here's a set of axioms out of which a system will emerge, like here's a set of rules out of which a game would emerge, same idea. What if we start with a different set of rules? Let's see what we can do if we do that. You kind of do that when you play one video game rather than another. You know, there are little worlds that pop out. There's a different underlying structure, and then you can go inside that world and experiment with it and see what comes out of it. So Heidegger decided to say, well, okay, what we're going to do instead is we're going to assume that everything we experience is real. We're going to make our field of experience itself reality. And so that would mean, from Heidegger's point of view, that everything about the being that manifests itself to you is to be regarded as equally real. So then you think, well, that makes pain a fundamental reality. That makes anxiety a fundamental reality. It makes beauty and color fundamental realities. They're not self-evidently reducible to anything else, which they would be, which they are in the from the scientific perspective, because you have to think about them as manifestations of some more fundamental underlying material reality. And I guess that's another problem with the subject-object model and the material model. When you aggregate atoms, when you arrange them in certain forms, when they manifest themselves as certain molecules and then in more complex structures, they seem to take on all sorts of qualities that you couldn't predict if you just knew about the subatomic particles and the atoms themselves. And so, of course, those are called emergent properties. And you say, well, you can observe hydrogen and you can observe oxygen, but that doesn't make it self-evident for you to be able to predict the properties of water. And of course, that's a much simpler problem, all things considered, than the problem of figuring you out. You're this crazily complex aggregate of these hypothetically simple entities, but it isn't obvious how their elemental properties can combine to produce you. It's not obvious at all. It's certainly not obvious how a material that's supposed to be dead matter, so to speak, can manifest consciousness, no matter how complexly it's arranged. So the phenomenologists, Heidegger leading them, attempted to produce a philosophical model of being.